Look at this, it's so cute. Their new convertible cup. We're going to talk about straw drinking, open cup drinking, even spoutless sippy cup drinking. I know you often hear me talking about let's step away from the sippy cup, but when it doesn't have a spout, it's totally fine. So we'll be talking about that as well. We're going to be talking a little bit about how to introduce a cup as young as 6 months and sort of what those prerequisites might be for a baby. I know many of you are just starting solids with your little one, so I'm here to help you in any way, of course. But today we're going to focus on the new GRABEASE convertible cup. So why is it convertible, right? Why do they call it that? Well, because it not only comes with, I gotta reach over and grab it, this adorable little mini cup if you want to get started that way, and I'll show you how, but it also comes with 3 other cups in one. So let's show you how that works. Obviously there's a straw cup, but what's the first thing you're noticing? Well, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that for years I've been talking about the importance of children having a very short straw when they're learning to straw drink and beyond. So we might start with a little bit longer straw at first, but the moment that we have the straw in the cup, we want it to be nice and short because the tip of the straw should just go past the tip of the tongue or just reach the tip of the tongue, so that that child can develop that mature swallow pattern that I talk about a lot in all of my books and all of my teachings. The other thing I want you to know is that not only is it a straw cup, but it's got this awesome silicone lid. So easy for parents to pull off, not easy for little kids to pull off. That's important, right, moms and dads, for sure. Raised 2 kids myself, totally get that. Inside, the straw itself has one of those magic little stoppers on it, so the kids also can't pull out the straw itself. Doesn't that drive you crazy when the kids pull out the straw and it goes flying across the room and everything splatters? So you've got an easy lid to take off, not easy for the kids to take off, and you've got a straw that they can't pull out. But now you've also got an open cup. And the great thing about the open cup is they intentionally created an open cup that was, first of all, just the right size for little mouths. Remember, you want the opening to your cup to fit right into the corner of your kid's mouth. So if you used an adult glass, it would be way too big. It's like drinking from a bucket for little kids. But this is just the right size so that their corners of their mouth make a nice seal right here. Alrighty, the other thing they did is on the other end of the cup is they made this beautiful sturdy base. So it's very difficult to tip over. And if it does, I know you might be wondering, well, if it's open and it does tip over, that's okay, that's how kids learn. But what happens if we put the silicone top back on? We'll leave the straw for just a second, and we use this instead as a spoutless sippy cup. Well, see that tiny little hole right there? There's a reason why it's so small. Because when kids are first learning how to drink from a tiny cup, we want that little opening to be small enough that just the right trickle of breast milk, formula, cow's milk, soy milk, whatever it happens to be, water, trickles through right into the center of their mouth, rather than having a very wide opening, like a big, upside down U, you might think of it, that I've seen in a lot of cups. That's just way too big for little kids. So when this tips over, will it spill a little bit? Sure it will. It's not the type of cup that is going to be spill proof, because that's not what it's intended for. It's intended for ease. It's intended for lightweight, but still sturdy, heavy enough that when we fill it with milk, breast milk, water, whatever it happens to be, that the kids have some good stability, but they can still see what's inside and learn from the tilt, right? But when they do tilt, just enough comes out. Here's your choices. So you've got a 6-month-old and they're already starting solids. The only prerequisite to straw drinking would be to be able to suck some sort of puree, a yogurt, or even some smashed avocado off of a finger or off of a spoon. Once your little one has the idea of how to suck off a finger or a spoon, they're ready for straw drinking. And I'm going to be showing you how to do that in a totally different video. But for now, what I want you to know is that when you start with straw drinking, the right size straw is really important. If the straw is too wide, once again, just like this hole might be, if it were too wide, and it's not, it's perfect, then the kids get way too much in their mouth. That's why I get so many questions about, why is my kid coughing when he's drinking from a straw or when he's drinking from an open cup? It's because he's getting way too much in his mouth at once and he just can't manage that large amount. Speech pathologists call that a bolus. We always ask ourselves, how large is the bolus that the child's able to swallow comfortably? And naturally, it's not the same size as what you and I can manage because our mouths are much bigger. But also a 6-month-old's mouth and face is still forming. It's all the way into almost their 3rd year before we start to see the jaw move into a position where they can really begin to chew foods more safely and they can learn to handle larger amounts of food in their mouth. So there's an anatomical reason for this as well. So with our convertible cup from GRABEASE, we've got the spoutless sippy, we've got the open cup option, and of course, we've got the straw option. So I want to show you just a little trick here. I love this cup. It's so just the right size, so small, and it's just so easy to manage. I can definitely see if I had little ones, I'd just throw this in a little bag and take it with me and then fill it at the restaurant where we happen to be or a friend's house or the park and use it that way. But let's talk about which one you start with. Are you going to start with the straw cup? Are you going to start with the spoutless sippy? Or are you going to start with the open cup? My personal preference, and based on my 20 years of professional experience, is to start with a straw. You can go to my website on my free toolbox tab, and I'll include the links in the comment in just a few minutes. And you can download my free download on how to teach your child to drink from a straw. But I'll be doing a whole nother video on that as well for you. So thanks for following me here. I like to start with a straw because it's the easiest transition from sucking off a finger or a spoon, which is what a 6-month-old is learning to do. Then they're just going to learn to suck the same type of food off the straw and eventually through the straw. Try not to offer all 3 options in the same week. Kids are already learning a lot about how to eat solid foods and how to mush it on the roof of their mouth and how to use those little gums and start a little bit of a munchable chew. They got a lot of learning happening in that first week. So I'd start with a straw, and then maybe the following week, depending on how baby's doing, then I'd probably start with either the open cup or the mini cup that comes with the system, or you could definitely start with the spoutless sippy if you wanted to. I think this is just me and how I've done it for years. We all have our favorite way, but I typically start with either the mini cup or the open cup and then go to the spoutless sippy. Let me show you how to get started. I'm going to pour a little bit of milk in here. Okay, brought a little milk with us, and I was just saying that kids cannot start on whole milk until after their first birthday. They can have a little bit of dairy for sure, but not whole milk. Just think of not liquid dairy milk, etc. But certainly they're having formula or breast milk. And now, so that's 4 ounces. You don't have to fill it up that far if you don't want to. I just wanted to make sure you had a good idea as how you can see through. So do you start with the open cup or the spoutless sippy? Well, you could start with the spoutless sippy, but it's a little bit, I think it's just a little bit more the next step in my mind, because the kids can't really see what's coming into their mouth as well. They can definitely see on the side, and that's why this is designed this way. But even if this lid were clear, they wouldn't be able to see it because their eyes won't look, it's impossible. I can't even see it. This is too close to my mouth. So I think that's confusing for a lot of people, right? Yeah. So really what we're looking for is for them to see the open milk when it's out here. Isn't that interesting? Everybody thinks they should see the milk here, but they can't. It's impossible. They can't see over those little cheekbones. Instead, we're looking at the milk here. So when you present this cup to your child, that is the time to fill it up relatively full. That might surprise you too, because you don't want much of a tilt or a tip when you offer to the child. So here, watch me, okay? Pretend I'm the baby, and when I go to take a drink, watch how much this tips or tilts. Hardly at all. That's because you're holding the cup, so you can have it full. Maybe a quarter of an inch from the top. And now when you offer it to baby, they see it as it's coming toward them, and they immediately feel it as you get that little tilt. See how important that is? You can do the same thing with this little mini cup if you'd like. Exact same thing. It's a little bit smaller. As a matter of fact, we use these little tiny cups like this even in the NICU with babies. This is a great way to introduce an open cup. Or if you think baby's ready, you can jump right to this one. All right, so once you've done this for about a week, remember you started with the straw, and then maybe you're going to go with the spoutless sippy lid or the open cup. My preference is the open cup. And then, I don't know, 5 or 6 days later, about a week, now the only change is there's a little bit of a lid. Now you can hand it to the child, help them position it, and they'll get just a little bit based on those tiny sips that you taught them in the first place. When you're introducing the open cup to your child, if you feel like they're having a little trouble, there's one thing you always want to check on, and that's make sure that they're really stable in their high chair, because trunk stability is always what influences all of this fine motor happiness. In order for us to chew and swallow with ease, we need to have good trunk stability, and trunk stability starts at the hips. Therapists always say, what you see on the hips, you'll see on the lips. The other tip I wanted to share with you is you could also start with a super smooth puree. Even a yogurt would be great, because the thicker yogurt, maybe you might want to thin it down a smidge with some water. That's okay, or some breast milk, whatever you'd like to use. But that little bit of thickness will also slow down the flow, and it's easier for the kids to manage in their mouth. So 2 tips for you. Make sure they're stable in the high chair, and if you want to thicken it up by putting yogurt or a smooth puree in there, that's just fine too.